What's up, guys? So in this video, I'm actually going to be breaking down a principle I teach my clients on how to overcome their urges and prevent lust on Nofap and semen retention. Right now, this is actually from my Skool Community course, which I currently have right now. So check this video out. Let me know in the comments what you think. And there's definitely some value in here for you to take from. So I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, guys. So next up is understanding and preventing lust. Now, arguably, I'd say this is probably the most important one out of all of them. If you can understand this concept and you can apply this concept, it's an absolute game changer, right? And I'm going to give you a little illustration to kind of help you understand what I'm saying. What's happening is, you know, as we talked about with triggers, what happens is when you see a trigger, right, that then triggers a thought of a sexual nature, right? That thought generates an emotion, generates a sensation, generates a feeling, right? You start to feel sexualized, you start to think about sex, right? It sends, you know, where focus goes, energy flows. That's one of the key quotes, one of the key things I want you to remember. Where focus goes, energy flows, right? So when it comes to understanding and preventing lust, what we want to do is you want to look at it like a fire, right? So as I mentioned before, a trigger, let's say Instagram, you're on Instagram, you see a girl, that's like a spark landing on your head, right? Just bear with me. Your head is like kindling. So you know when you make a fire and you know, watch Bear Grylls or some kind of survival show and they spark onto kindling, right? What we want to do is we want to think of our mind as essentially kindling, right? So think of our mind as like kindling, right? So that's some kindling, okay? And what's going to happen is we're going to have thoughts or, you know, certain triggers that are going to trigger a thought in our mind, right? And those thoughts come in. So they come in like sparks. So I'm just going to do like these as if it's like sparks, right? So that's kindling. Those are the sparks. Now, if anyone's ever made a fire before, there's a certain way that it works, right? So these sparks will land on the kindling, okay? And what can sometimes happen is you get an ember, right? So you get a little ember, that's an exaggerated example. I've probably put too many dots there, but you get an ember that lands and that ember can't really do a whole lot. That ember isn't particularly powerful in of itself, right? An ember can be put out just by doing that, right? Just by putting a little bit of pressure on it, that ember will be gone, okay? And we have to think of our minds in a very similar way, right? When a lustful thought comes in, it's at its weakest point. That's when it's the weakest, right? When that little thought comes to your head, it's literally just like a little ember on that kindling. And if you don't give it any attention, you don't do anything, it will go, it would disappear, right? However, this is what most guys do, and this is the reason they fail so much. This is why this is such an important thing. What guys do is they actually give that ember attention, right? They start thinking, they start fantasizing, they start lusting in their mind. And what happens, right? All of a sudden, that ember turns into a little flame, okay? So what was once just an ember now is a flame. And then they go on to thinking more, like they start thinking more, they start fantasizing more. Now what they've done is they've put more sticks on the fire. Then they think more, then they think more. Then they even start looking at more content. They start looking at pictures of girls, or maybe they even go on the websites like Pornhub or whatever, start looking at some adult content. And now they've put, you know, some bigger logs on that fire, right? Now, instead of having just instead of having just simply that tiny ember that could have been put out, now they've got this big burning fire, right? And you can't put that out. You know, you can't just put some pressure on that and put that out. It has a certain weight to it, it has a certain energy behind it. And that's exactly what's happening to guys, right? And this fire gets created in their mind, and this is what leads them to a relapse. Eventually, that fire gets to a point where they can't control it anymore, right? And that leads to them relapsing. Now, there is a solution to this. And with this analogy, we have to imagine that there is no fire extinguisher, right? The only way you can put this fire out is if you stop feeding it. That is the only way this fire goes out. And obviously, as you guys know, a fire is going to keep burning, right? So what a lot of guys experience is they let these thoughts in, they let them manifest in their mind, they start growing, and they get this big fire. And what they do is they typically relapse, you know. There's very few amount of guys that will sit and endure that fire that thoughts in. They let them manifest in their mind. They start growing and they get this big fire. And what they do is they typically relapse, you know. There's very few amount of guys that will sit and endure that fire that they've created for it to eventually go down again and go back to nothing. So if that is you, then obviously, and you get yourself into this situation, the best thing you can do is just stop feeding those thoughts, cut them off. And it's hard to do. And it may be a day, 2 days, 3 days where you're stuck in that really low vibration state. You're thinking really lustfully, etc. But give it enough time and eventually you'll go back to your baseline, right? But to go back to the point, let's go back to the kindling, right? Now that's an example of like not doing the right thing, letting those thoughts in. But if we have those embers coming in, you know, let's do it like lines as like sparks, right? I guess that kind of doesn't really look that good. But instead of entertaining them, we simply just ignore them. We simply don't give them any attention. And as a result, nothing happens, you know, nothing happens. Nothing can progress from that. And this is really how it works. And I've seen guys who've had like 20 years worth of porn addiction, right? Completely give this up in 6 months. You know, I'm talking like just go from being hooked to being 6 months clean, just like that. Just by being so disciplined with this mindset of cutting those thoughts off before they get in. And really, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, these thoughts are coming in. If you can cut them off, you know, if you can cut them off before they even touch the kindling, you're onto a winner. And the element of eliminating triggers is emphasizing this, and it's reducing the amount of, you know, sparks that are coming in onto that kindling, right? So that's it, guys. Stop entertaining those thoughts. Stop giving them attention, right? And as I said, where focus goes, energy flows. And that's something else we're going to cover later on in the sexual transmutation part of the module. But this is an important thing, right? So it's understanding how lust works. I think what a lot of guys do is they think, oh yeah, I can just think about some stuff. I can just fantasize a little bit. But what they don't realize is they're creating a fire, and fires can get out of control. Fires can get out of hand, right? So you need to really be disciplined, build up that self-control, and you won't have this issue. And if you can do this for over a prolonged period of time, you will inevitably get success on this journey. So, and bear in mind, there is a saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So, you know, a little bit of this is worth, you know, a whole lot of work to fix this. And if you keep your brain like this, where you're keeping those thoughts out, you're being very disciplined with it, you won't have to deal with these long periods of time where you feel like a ton of lust and you feel, you know, you don't feel the best. So I hope that all makes sense. But I really believe if you can understand this concept, it's incredibly powerful, and this will be the most important thing that you incorporate on your journey. So take notes. So yeah, there it is, guys. That is one principle from the SRM blueprint. Is something I teach my clients, as I said at the start, in my Skool community. Now the community currently is $8 to get in. I don't know when you're watching this, that could have changed. And the plan is to build it out on how to increase testosterone, female attraction, finding your true purpose, mastering semen retention. And this is truly the best stuff I have on it. It's what I give to my clients when they sign up for my programs. So you're getting a ton of value. And if you found value in that one short clip, there is many more principles in the program that are super powerful and will genuinely get you some crazy results. Now, if you can't justify spending $8, you know, that's pretty much the equivalent to buying a coffee. If you can't justify spending that money on investing in yourself, on changing your life and improving yourself, then I don't really know what to tell you. So if you want to get in that, the link is below in the description. Jump into the community. If you jump in now and you pay the $8, the price is subject to increase over the course of the next few months. So if you jump in now, that price will lock you in permanently, and it will double, triple, potentially quadruple in price in the next 3 to 6 months. So if you want to jump in, please go ahead and do that. So there's going to be tons more content coming out on the community. So be sure to do that, guys. Have a good day. Peace.